endlessly searching for an original sound.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Sweet Pool. Let's continue on, because things got a little dicey last time and I pressed the wrong button. We got captured, it looked like, so let's find out what happens. Take care of Christy for me, okay?
Mo-chan!
Zenya's voice sounded so close. Kitani tried to call out to him and promptly woke up to the sound of his own voice. He winced. His head felt like it was in a vice. The room was spinning. He slipped up again a second time. Didn't we do this? Hold on. No, I guess we didn't. Or I didn't say it, I don't remember. He slipped up a second time. This time, however, he could at least remember what happened prior to losing consciousness. Could he have slept for another 24 hours? Perhaps. Panic sparked in his chest, and he looked to his watch. The small hand indicated 5 p.m. Assuming it hadn't been another full day, that would mean only an hour or so had passed. Zenya must have only given him a small dose. Regardless, his body felt like lead. Zenya. He cast a quick glance around the room. The boy was nowhere to be seen. Shame filled him. How could he have let Zenya go? He should have done everything in his power to keep him here, even if he had meant hurting him. Swallowing his regret, he attempted to sit up, and felt the weight of his right shoulder. He looked over and promptly did a double take. There was a green mass on his arm.
Christy.
It was Zenya's pet iguana. She was chewing on Kitani's hair as though she'd mistaken it for a snack. Take care of Christy for me, okay? Finally, the words clicked. On closer inspection, the iguana was wearing a ribbon around her neck, a key dangling from the center of the bow. Was it the key to his handcuffs? Kitani slid his hand under the iguana's belly and gently attempted to pull her off. But she still had his hair in her mouth. He tugged her away a few times before she finally let go. Using his left hand, he untied the ribbon around her neck. It took a bit longer than it would have with his dominant hand, but eventually he managed to get the key into the lock. With a loud click, the handcuffs came open. After being suspended in midair for so long, his arm was numb. There was a mark around his wrist where the metal had dug into his skin. Shaking the feeling back into his hand, Kitani got to his feet. Before he could take a step, however, his eyes landed on the iguana curled up on the floor. He couldn't just leave her, as Zenya had asked. He needed to put her back in her habitat, but first he was curious about the chapel. Where was Kanehito? After a moment's hesitation, Kitani decided to take the iguana along with him. First, he'd check the chapel, then take her back to her room. He scooped Christy up and then quickly left the dining room. As he moved down the hall, he listened for any sign of Konohito. Nothing. He wasn't in his room either. Anxiety spiking, Kitani dashed down the stairs to the basement. The door to the chapel had been left wide open. The snake-patterned chest lay open too, its contents strewn about. Not much had changed since before Kitani had lost consciousness, save for one thing. Whatever had been hidden behind the curtain was now gone. Cautiously, Kitani entered the chapel and crouched down in front of the chest. He picked up the little notebook laying on the floor. He'd been in the middle of reading it when someone, almost certainly Zenya, had attacked him. The contents were shaking, to say the least. The Liberated was a sect that worshipped entities which Konohito's uncle had called inner beings, or simply them. As the name suggested, they dwelled inside one's body, like parasites. But the notebook went on. Inner beings, All inner beings are once part of him, the ultimate pure breed. I will touch upon pure breeds later. Some members of the sect refer to him as the benefactor. The benefactor. Konohito had mentioned him during that phone call with Kamiya. No one knows where he came from, as our sect was formed during the Meiji period. One can deduct that he must have appeared around this time. In the beginning, he took human form by anointing his worshippers with his holy flesh. Specifically through oral ingestion, he increased the number of hosts dramatically. Henceforth, I shall refer to the parts of him living inside us as residuals. These residuals strongly resemble raw flesh, anointing his worshippers with holy flesh. Parts of him living inside them? Wait, if this benefactor was human? Pressing a hand to his mouth, he kept reading. Hosts. A host is someone who shares his body with a residual. Residuals live in the bowels of their host. Like all living creatures, residuals have strong reproductive instincts. They are able to change the host's body into male or female forms. If a host is not properly chosen, then his body may reject the residual's presence. This can cause both mental and physical decay. Additionally, it has been proven that only men may become hosts. We believe this to be because the presence of a uterus interferes with the altercation project. Male hosts. Males are overwhelmingly more common than females. They exude a type of pheromone which females detect as a strong, appealing scent. In addition, it has been observed that the more compatible a male is with his residual, the greater his power of regeneration. Wow, I can't read. This ability is unique to males. Power of regeneration. As in the ability to recover from injuries or disease. This gives Kitani pause. Unfortunately, the notebook didn't explain in detail. He got the sense that the males might recover quickly from cuts or broken bones. What about gunshots? Could this regeneration repair damaged organs? What about rapid blood loss? Surely a host's human body couldn't endure the shock. Perhaps guns were a viable weapon against them? While contemplating this, he read further. Female hosts. Female hosts are exceedingly rare. A female must mate with a male in order to produce a purebred. In addition, by mating with humans, a female can spread his residual to others and create new hosts. Females emit pheromones as well. A female's pheromones are powerful enough to affect even particularly sensitive humans. Furthermore, direct contact with a male will cause the female to excrete formless pheromone fragments. I call these fragments mark meat. Mark meat signals that a female is present. Only hosts can see them. Additionally, females in pure breeds are able to excrete tangible fragments visible to the human eye, which I will call flash seeds. Then, when animals other than humans consume flash seeds, the result is invariably fatal. So, if an inner being or a prospective residual finds a compatible human, that person becomes a host, and from there it is transformed into either a male or a female. To Kitani, the terms felt degrading somehow, almost like these people were considered subhuman. But why were they divided into males and females in the first place? For breeding? Breeding what? Pure breeds. Pure breeds are a separate entity, born only when a male and female mates. You may know a pure breed by its scarlet eyes. Whether a pure breed is born depends largely on the compatibility between the male and female, but overall, the likelihood is extremely low. As for this writing, it has been decades since a pure breed was born. Upon the birth of a pure breed, both parents die. Unlike the flash seeds of a female, the flash seeds of a pure breed can create new hosts independently. Females can spread flash seeds by mating with humans, but a pure breed's flash seeds need only be ingested. A pure breed can control mark meat and flash seeds at will. It is also blessed with powerful regenerative abilities. The pheromones it gives off are far stronger than those of a male or female. strong enough to enthrall any human. Currently, the Okinaga family protects the last known pure breed. He has lost over 2/3 of his original mass, however, which has dramatically reduced his abilities. Pure breeds. Based on what was written here, they were the strongest of all. It seemed that males and females existed primarily to produce these creatures. It reminded him of the hierarchy of bees. The pure breed was like the queen, the brood mother. At this point, Kitani looked up at the ceiling and exhaled deeply. How he wished he could convince himself that the text was a work of fiction. Clearing his head, Kitani lowered his gaze back to the notebook. He had reached the final page. In conclusion, I would like to explain why I chose to record all of this. My purpose is, and always has been, to protect him. But at the same time, I cannot deny that he has stolen my heart. He was truly a beautiful boy, you see. I only saw him once in my childhood, but I was transfixed by his scarlet eyes and angelic features. When he noticed me staring like a deer in headlights, he smiled. I never forgot the sight. Sadly, I was but a lowly initiate, and in no position to interact with one so exalted. That was the first and last time I ever saw him in human form. The next time I saw him was when the heretics attacked. Faith in him had waned over time, and a faction of the liberated had foolishly decided to kill him and create new pure breeds. The attack left our church in ruins, but I snuck away amid the chaos to see him. I wished desperately to behold his flawless beauty once more. I still feel the pain of that moment as though it were yesterday. There in the basement, I found him laying on a white pedestal covered in blood, his body in ruins. I knew it was him, but the average person would have seen nothing but a slab of meat. He had no face, no arms or legs, no human parts left. Years of anointing his worshippers with holy flesh had reduced him to a husk. Just then a group of heretics appeared with flaming torches, intent on burning him to ash. The moment I realized their intentions, my body moved on instinct. I took him in my arms and slipped past the adults, running as fast as my little legs would carry me. I myself wasn't sure why I had thought to do such a thing. I just wanted to protect him. I didn't want to give him up, not to anyone. He'd smiled at me. After that, I decided I would continue to protect him. Once the heretics were wiped out, the new leader of the liberated entrusted him to my family. Enclosed in this notebook is a map to the holy ground where we worshipped him and performed our rituals. Rituals? there she is. Kitani flipped through the book, and sure enough, the old tattered map was folded between pages. With sweaty hands, he unfolded the thin scrap of paper. It was a map of the entire town. In the bottom right corner, one area was circled in red. Impossible. This holy ground, it was Komanami Academy. He remembered what Konihito had said. Prepare the ritual. Revive the benefactor. And Xenia had mentioned a party starting soon. Had the two of them gone to the academy? Maybe there was still time. Maybe he could stop them. As Kitani moved to stand up, he felt something tug on his hair. He turned his head to find Christy sitting on his shoulder, with a few strands in her mouth. He'd been so engrossed in the notebook, he hadn't felt her climb atop him. He stroked her head, frowning to himself. He remembered the look on Xenia's face right before he lost consciousness. Thinking back on it, he had been the expression of someone resigned to his fate. Xenia's fate. Kitani dashed out of the chapel and up the stairs down the hall to the second floor. There he put Christy back in her habitat and ran into his room. Reaching into the back of his closet, he retrieved the gun he had kept hidden behind his clothes. It had served him well in his Yakuza days, and he had hung onto it just in case. He hadn't used it in quite some time, but it still felt right in his hand. Next he took out a case of bullets and loaded the magazine. After making sure the safety was on, he tucked the gun into his belt. Then he ran out of the garage. There should have been 2 cars parked inside, but one of them was missing. One set of keys was missing too. Conejito and Xenia must have taken it. Panic intensified. Kitani jumped into the remaining car, fired up the engine, and steered out of the garage. It took everything he had not to floor the accelerator. Rush hour was at its peak, so he took the long way to school, avoiding the main street. Even then, it was slow going. He smacked the wheel in frustration. His wrist still stung where the cuts had dug into his skin. At last, the school came into view up ahead. Sure enough, the family's second car was parked outside the gate. Kitani parked in the spot behind it and hopped out. Today was the Academy's founding day, and the school was closed. There was no students in sight, but the gates were wide open. Apprehension swelling, Kitani hurried through the gates. Fortunately, he had an idea of where to look. That building, the one he'd seen many times when rescuing Xenia from his 5 o'clock torment. That was where this holy ground was likely to be. Kitani took one step into the main building and came to a stop. Something was off. The air was unnaturally humid and clung to his skin. Was the school always this dark? Was it just because no one was here? The Virgin Mary statue near the door was utterly filthy. No, not just her. From the lockers to the hallway, everything was covered in grime. How could the school have gotten this dirty? Kitani walked past the lockers, down the hallway, and out into the courtyard. Outside, the scenery looked as red as the sun itself. The color was reminiscent of fresh blood. There, standing quietly beneath the setting sun, was his destination, the chapel. Kitani followed the cobblestone path to its door. They were firmly shut. This had to be the place. Steeling his resolve, Kitani pressed a hand against the door and pushed open. Oh, what's gonna happen? I guess everyone will find out next time. Thank you guys for joining me for more Sweet Pool. See you guys next time, and thanks to everyone who's been supporting and checking the links in the description. Bye, everybody.